What's up guys, CD here. Okay, so today we're gonna do video on PvP again. Episode 10, Dummy's Guide to Brown Dust. Alright, second video in the PvP series. It's gonna be a very long video guys. Bear with me. I'm gonna be as thorough as I can. So this will actually be the fourth video about PvP on my channel, so make sure you watch the previous one first. The previous ones first to understand what I'm saying in this video. And as always, what I'm covering today has to do with higher tier arena, alright? And always note, every tier in arena is very different from every other. The units you face more often, the formations they use, every single tier is different. Like we got like what, silver, gold, platinum, and so on, right? Until Grandmaster and then Challenger and Champion. Every tier is different. The units that you meet often are gonna be different, alright? So you have to adjust accordingly, okay? And once again, as always, this video is gonna be a long video. Alright, you have to come to expect that by now. Okay, before I start, self-plug time. If you guys like the videos I make, give me a thumbs up on the videos that you like and sub to the channel. Really helps me out, makes me feel appreciated. Alright. Okay, so today we're going to talk about damage units as well as supports. As I said before in the previous episode, there are four main roles for PvP in Brown Dust. Roadblocks, taunts, DPS, which are damage units, and supports. Alright, watch the previous video about roadblocks and taunts if you're unsure what I'm talking about. Alright, so anyways, today I'm going to cover DPS units as well as supports. So first things first. What are DPS units? Very simple. These are the units that kill stuff, right? They are the units that kill things. These DPS units can be of any type. For example, a warrior like Sigmund, or a defender like Britain, alright? Or a mage like Valfern, or a support, a very rare case that a support is a DPS, Asmode. Alright, probably he is the only support in the game that does damage to the opponent. Alright, so you read their skills and understand them first, because sometimes it's not as obvious as it may seem. Okay, Asmo is a DPS, but he is classified as a supporter. Okay, so now what makes a unit a good DPS unit? Alright, very simple. It must one-shot anything that isn't a roadblock. Alright? Roadblocks, for example, are Lucius, Lillian, and Arkan. Right? The big three, as stated in my previous video. The big three of roadblocks in Brown Dust at the moment. Alright? So they have to one-shot anything that isn't a roadblock. Anything. So if they are not one-shotting stuff, it's either that unit sucks, is not a good damage unit, or you don't have enough buffs on your damage units. Alright? Generally, one buff, one supporter is not enough, so you want to have two. That would be minimum, unless... You know what, I covered this in my previous supporters video. Go check that one out. 3 supports is maximum, right? To buff a certain DPS unit. And that's entirely up to your discretion, right? What you want to do with it, how you want to fix it, how you want to set it up. Okay, so now, how do you tell what is a good damage unit? You look at their skills, right? So I just mentioned Sigmund, right? Sigmund. Why is Sigmund a good damage unit? Because he has additional damage, alright? And at +0, additional damage is 250% of the remaining HP rate times the attack. How do you read this? It means that if Sigmund is 100% HP times the attack, alright, so 100% of the attack times 250% additional damage. Right, that's how you read it, and that's why Sigmund is a very painful damage unit. Okay? Hope you understand. Right? Because he has skills that increase his damage output, Sigmund is a good damage unit. Alright? Another skill that increases his damage output is at +6. Defense before battle, 100% increased attack. So whatever amount of defense he has is increased, the attack increased by 100%. So you can times 1, multiply by 1. Alright? Defense multiplied by 1, that's the extra attack percentage he gets. That's how you count. Alright? Just to be very exact. Okay, and you use defense runes after segments are +6. Okay? Not gonna go too in depth on that. Okay, so what makes a unit a bad damage unit? Alright? For example, recently released, you guys know I'm going to talk about her, Yuri. We're not even going to talk about base stats, alright, when it comes to damage unit, because the differences are very rarely big enough to make a difference. Sometimes they are. In the case of Christina, I can't really think of any more, but yeah, those that have low attack, that makes quite a bit of difference, but those popular ones, the more mainstream meta units, they all have around the same attack, okay? Except Eden, of course. Anyway, Yuri. Why is Yuri a bad damage unit? Why is she bad for dealing damage, alright? Listen to the phrasing. Why is she bad to deal damage? She has nice tiles, alright, but it hits first. Means hit the front unit, right, first. Her skills. Okay, I was coughing, sorry. Nullifier. Does not increase her damage. Stun. This is decent sometimes. Okay, because stun is quite interesting to use, but that doesn't increase the damage as well. This skill is the worst. Agility before battle times 50% boost attack. Okay, look at her base agility. 25%. This is before battle, so it will always count 25%. Right, so what this means is agility before battle is 25%, right? Times 50%, so you divide it by 2, which means she gets a 12.5% boost in attack based on this skill. So this skill is rubbish, right? It's so bad. The attack increase is basically nothing. A lousy support can buff more than that, right? Reflective counter. This is decent to deal with hell and anything that counters like Jin and so on. Okay, before normal attack is quite important. Notice this. But Yuri is just not a good damage unit. She is a decent utility unit. She's just not a damage and not a DPS unit, alright? Because her skills don't allow her to deal enough damage, alright? Utility wise, she is decent, but as a damage unit, she's bad. So this is an example of a bad damage unit, alright? Now, when you look at damage units, what you want to look at? You want to look at the tiles that they have, alright? For example, at different skill levels, their tiles may increase based on the unit that they are. We talked about Yuri just now, right? Yuri has a nice tile, right? For control, 5 tiles, this is nice. Wide range, very good. Sigmund at... I'm not pushing Sigmund because I've been talking about him a lot. I'm going to talk about him more. Sigmund at +10 gets 2 tile range and it's a skip. That is really good because you skip the front tank or front whatever. You hit the skip unit. Okay? Decent, really good. Foxy. Foxy at +9 also has skip. Alright? 2 tiles. Really, really good. Skill levels matter, guys. When it comes to damage units, skill levels matter, even for Eden. Eden at +0 and at +10, totally different unit, alright? Because Eden gets extra tiles. 2 tiles from the front. And Eden does big damage, everyone knows it, right? So, the beast that is Eden at +0 and +10 is the difference between heaven and earth. Okay, so skill ups are important. But also notice that if you want to invest in a unit, you want to look at what you get per increase in skill level, alright? Some units develop slower, like Foxy. Some develop and get stronger every skill up, alright? Like Sigmund. Sigmund, every skill up, he gets stronger. While Foxy, totally until maybe she's +9, she gets the 2 tiles, and then she gets the attack penalty reduced, then she gets really strong, alright? But in between, she's just weak. Okay, so there's a huge jump in power for Foxy, depending on skill levels, but as Sigmund grows evenly, every skill book you put into him, there's a difference, alright? So that's how it's gonna affect your planning or what kind of unit you want to put your skill books in, alright? Okay, so what else? So hopefully now you know how to understand what makes a unit a good DPS, a good damage unit, alright? And now I am going to hope to help you to understand what are the damage unit's weaknesses, alright? For example, Foxy. Where's Foxy? Okay. For example, Foxy. Foxy, in all her skills, no matter what skill level she is, she does not have stats weakening immunity. What does this mean? It means if you get cursed, like from Seer, from Levia, her attack is gonna be way lesser, alright? Which means she's gonna deal less damage than she actually can without dealing with this kind of problems, alright? So that is a weakness, okay? So example would be if Foxy without debuff immunity or stats weakening immunity, she hits Seer, alright? Seer does this, alright? Um, where's the skill? Alright, so at high skill levels, before Seer gets hit by Foxy, she reduces Foxy's stats. Stats weakening, right? Read the skill. Stats weakening. And if she does not have immunity, her attack is reduced, her defense is reduced, everything except HP is reduced by 35%. Okay, so which means she's gonna deal pitiful damage to Seer, and because Seer has Masochism, she's gonna heal, and as Foxy multi-hits, you keep hitting Seer with multi-hits, Seer is gonna heal up, alright? She's gonna heal up and she's not gonna take much damage. Alright, that is an issue. Okay, another example of a unit that has curse counter. Let's talk about Levia. Levia at +0 already has this curse counter, also stats weakening. So if Foxy hits Levia, Levia is most probably not gonna die, okay? If Foxy does not have the immunity required. Okay, so this is Foxy's weaknesses, right? She is weak to stats weakening immunity, right? There are many other kinds of weaknesses, like for example, let's show you an example of a unit that has stats weakening immunity built in. Alright? Becomes immune to stats weakening skill type. Eden has this in his kit. So when you awaken Eden, you get this. Same with Sigmund. Sigmund also, after he hits, he is immune to debuff skill types. Decent. Not very good because it's after he hits, so he may get punished with burns and stuff, depending on the burn, whether it's before he gets hit, the burn counter. Everything depends, alright? And there are exceptions. Alright, read the exceptions first and understand these. Okay? Gunther does not have any immunities at all. Alright? His skills are all damage. He's a very offensive character. So he has the same problems as Foxy, but his is not that bad because he only hits once. Foxy gets the problem a lot of times. Okay? Other problems you can face. Right, might as well do this. Attack interference. They could be stunned if they're not immune. Frozen, charmed. You have to understand your DPS units and what their weaknesses are, alright? Some do not have attack interference immunity, so they are going to have to face these kind of problems. They understand their weaknesses, guys. Right, so now you know what are the kind of weaknesses you need to take note of. Now I'm going to talk about supports. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm going to talk about supports as well and why they are so important, alright? I actually did a video about supports a few weeks earlier. If you didn't watch that, you want to check it out because I'm going to try and skim over the same things that I've said before. Supports are the units that buff your team, bar 1, which is Asmode, okay? Which cover that. Supports either increase the damage of your units to your team or they reduce the damage taken by your team in their own ways, okay? That's why these are buffs. They can also give your units immunity to certain statuses or remove variable debuffs on your units, okay? So, what does this mean? Example, Vanaka removes an attack interference skill type applies to allies, right? So that means any of your allies that have stun on them, if Vanaka casts her buff on them, it's removed. Okay, unless it's irremovable, which is very rarely for attack interference. Another example, Cerez. Cerez has make allies to be immune to stats weakening skill type. So this is good. Alright, it helps units like Gunther and Foxy. Really good. Okay, so these kind of supports can solve the problems that your units may face. Alright, they can remove, some of them can remove debuffs, some of them give immunities, which is all good. Okay, most support units in the game are good, so don't fodder them. Alright, don't use them as fodder. The problem with supports is that they all need to be as high a rarity and as high a skill up level you can afford to make them. Meaning their best condition will be always at 6-star plus 10. It can be a 3-star base support or a 5-star base support. It doesn't matter. They have to be 6-star plus 10 to be at their best condition to give the best buffs. Right, for the most effective buffs. As I said in my earlier video about supports, don't compare apples to oranges, alright? If you want to compare supports, you get them to the same rarity, meaning you get the 3-star base support to 5-star, and then you can compare the buff with a 5-star base unit that has not been ranked up to 6-star, right? You compare same rarity supports. As the support stats increase as they get leveled. So at higher 5-star rarity or 6-star rarity, their support stat is much more, and that's how the buffs are calculated, right? There are a few exceptions like Warrior that has her buff depend on the defense that she has. Most of them use support stat, right? This stat right here, right? Most of them. Very rarely you get something that has an exception, right? Anyway, pretty simple. If you don't understand, watch the video I did on supports. It's called All About Supports. It's also one of the episodes of Dummy's Guide to Brown Dust. Go watch that one. And also, as I stated in my previous video, they all have their own use. Maybe except a few, which I will not name. Alright? Most supports are useful. Now we're going to talk about a few combos of supports with DPS that can solve your DPS unit's weaknesses. Alright, let me drink a mouth of water first. And I said in the beginning of the video, I'm only going to talk about popular and meta units. I'm going to skim all those that are not used often, right? So example of a combo, Veronia plus Foxy. This is most basic. Everybody should know it by now. Foxy has to be +3, because at +3, she gets make allies to be immune to debuff skill type. This is debuff immunity bestowal, which is amazing. Alright, so when you have this on Foxy, she does not get affected by curse. She does not get burned. She does not get stunned. No, she does get burned, sorry. That's not dot interference. Oh wait, that's a debuff. It is, yeah, okay. So she becomes immune to all debuffs, which is amazing. So Foxy does not have that problem anymore. Alright, of stats weakening immunity not being there for her. Same with Ceres and Foxy, also a good combo, because stats weakening immunity, right, on Ceres, like I said, really good. Now another example of good unit combos, Walya plus Velja. Why is this good? Because at high skill ups, the buffs that Walya does give, crit rate and attack, and this is what Velja needs most, because you build crit damage runes on Velja, alright, so rage runes, double rage runes on Velja. She gets, I think, with 300% crit damage, you get about 40 something % crit rate. And Velja's damage comes from critting enemies. So you want to get her crit rate as high as possible. And she starts with 0%. Alright, so with the crit damage runes, she gets about 40 something %, depending on how good your runes are. Then you add in this boost from Warrior's buff, and this solves the problem of her not having enough crit rate. Right, increases attack as well, which is very welcome, amazing. It's a good combo, okay? You can also use Veronia with Velja, because debuff immunity, right? Velja does not have immunities. She does have Death Guard, but she does not have immunities. Alright, she does not. Okay, so you want to have that option on her, which is really good. And Verona actually buffs the stats that she needs, right? Crit rate, attack, crit damage at high skill ups. A really good combo, alright? You get the idea, alright? So that's how you use supports to help your damage units. Okay? Also, a point to note, okay, this is just for everyone else, anyone lucky enough to watch this video. Vanaka as a support is going to be very important in the future, because Mammonia at +10 will be an issue. Okay, because Mammonia at +10, she's gonna have a huge energy guard level, energy guard HP. Right, at +10, Mammonia, 350% of max HP. That's a lot, right, of energy guard you have to go through to kill her. Okay. Also, Mammonia counterattacks with nullifier to enemy's normal attack. Which means if it's a normal attack, she counters, she removes the already applied buff skill type after she's been attacked, and she prohibits buffs on that damage unit, and buffs damage unit's life, soul, everything about damage unit, you need buffs, right? If not, the damage unit is not going to deal enough damage. So this is going to be a problem. The good thing about Vanaka is her buffs cannot be removed. Okay? This can't be removed with removal skill type. Alright? It cannot be removed. So it's good to deal with Mammonias at +10. So Vanaka is going to be really important. Alright? Understand this and you'll be fine. Okay, this will be crucial to deal with this future problem, alright? Just saying, just putting it out there. Okay, so now we're going to talk about support range and their tiles. Okay? This is going to be fairly quick, I hope. I'm just going to show you an example, alright? Because if I don't show you an example, you won't understand. Let's say Arenas, Hyunwoo, right? These two, very common, right? Everybody has these at some point of time in their life, in the game. So let's say I want to have 3 DPS. Right, 3 DPS. Normally like this, you look. Arena's buff 3 times 3, right? So she can definitely buff 3 DPS, right? Hyunwoo is across, so there's 3 units in line. He can buff 3 units too. But if you use these two together, your buffs will never be optimal. Why? Because chaining supports is important in the game. Watch the previous video all about supports on how to chain of supports and stuff, or watch other YouTube videos about chaining supports. I'm not going to go through that. Chaining supports is important, alright? To maintain your advantage. So, if let's say I want to buff and I want to chain support, so it has to be like this, right? 1, 2, and then 3. So it has to be like this and like this. So these two supports, their range, their tiles, do not complement each other, right? So they don't help each other. You cannot cover all the DPS with buffs. One of them is going to miss out, right? So Eden will have 1 buff, Foxy will have 1 buff. That's not optimal. Okay? So what you want is to mix, for example, Ceres, alright, Ceres. A line buff, right? A line 4 tiles with a 3x3 or a cross buff. Alright, so this will be optimal because you are able to get the buffs to carry on to all the DPS units you want to be buffed. Right? See? Very simple. This is optimal buffing, right, by supports. So you must try, I mean, if you don't have, you have no choice, but try to make sure your buffs cover all the units you need to buff, alright? Make sure that the range covers everything, alright? This is important to note. Alright, hopefully you get the idea. I mean, basically, if you use Hyunwoo, for example, alright, no matter how I place it, if I don't chain, even if I don't chain the supports, right, my damage units are like this. So what can I do? I can do it like this, right? So 1 buff on 2, right? You're never gonna cover all the units with these 2 supports together. So you need supports with the tile range that complements each other, alright? This is very important. Okay? Support turn order, I'm not going to talk about that. Watch the video on supports. Okay, that's very basic. How to chain and etc. That's very basic. Actually, okay, fine. I'll explain it one last time, alright? So maybe let's just deal with Ceres, alright? So chaining. Once again, this would be ideal, right? Now, if you face this problem, there is only one way to solve your buffing problem, alright? And that is to use a mage, okay? There is only one way to solve your supports not having the right range. Okay, so let's say Vanaka. Alright, and even then, it's not perfect. I'm gonna put some mages in. Alright. So what I can do this. I think attack percentage is important for these units. So I want to buff these first. Right? 1, 2, and then there's a space. So I can do this. I want to buff these 2. Like this. I can space out the buffs, alright? This is not perfect, right? It doesn't entirely solve the problem, okay? At all. You can do this. right? But it doesn't solve the problem. It helps it a little bit because you can space out the buffs and you can choose the DPS you want to go first. Okay, for example, like something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. Normally you don't use so many DPS, so I'm gonna remove one. Because your team really can't afford to have that many DPS. You need roadblocks, okay? So how does this work? Normally you want to go support to support, right? To chain supports. But because you have mages, they do not attack in the first turn. They need to charge for one turn first. So you can chain like this, right? It's not perfect, but it's a way of making things better than it is. Alright, so if I'm using this DPS role, I know Levia does not need buffs, so I can do this. Right, because she's fixed damage. So this goes like this. And it works. Because Levia doesn't really need buffs. I want these three to have all the buffs. And this helps. I don't have to do this. Right, I don't have to waste space in this lane and fit my support in there, right? Or do this. There are many variations, right? So I can probably do something like this. And it will work. But the problem is I waste space in this lane. Okay? I know it's a bit messy because I'm going off the cuff here. I'm just talking and then I didn't really prepare. But because I waste space in this lane, I cannot place any roadblocks here. There's no space. Right, I can't. If I put one here, these two are open for skips. If I put something like this to protect from probably most things, alright, front and skip. The back is open though. The buffs don't match. Okay, so you can help yourself by placing buffs in this way. Okay, so the supports can be placed out of the lane like this. Okay, so they are out of the lane, and vulnerable units in this lane will be Levia, if there's a Velja, or Foxy with a skip, because Lillian's not going to die from a skip that's not Cito. Foxy will die, but she has a counter, so that's okay. That's priority. You wanna buff them in a way that you have options, alright? You have options available for you in the lane. Because there are only 3 lanes, you only have that much space to put your stuff. Okay, so understand this and that you can make use of mages to do your buffs properly, alright? And when this form is in this way, what happens is 1, 2, Levia goes, 3, 4, Velfen goes, and then 5 or 5. Alright, so you can be Foxy 5 or Sigmund 5, and they hit first. Okay, depending on your priority. Okay, in my opinion, I would go with Foxy 5 because she's in a more dangerous position since I meet a lot of skip damage units in my tier. Okay, and there's some Velges, so Levia needs to protect herself, that's up to her. Okay, so if you don't understand what roadblocks are, please check out the previous video. Understand why they're used and stuff. Okay? Hopefully you get the general idea. And supports being off and being not protected is okay, as long as they manage to get their buffs off, right? If they get their buffs off, most decent supports, their buffs will last for a suitable amount of time. Okay? That's how it is. If they die early, it's okay. And we are assuming that we are attacking, right? because if we're going to talk about defending, it's totally different, right? It's totally a whole new ball game. I'm going to save that for another video. So assuming we are attacking, so our support will always get their buffs off. Okay? Hopefully you get a general idea. Now we're going to talk about DPS unit positioning and turn order and what you hope to achieve. Actually, I covered that just now. We are going to place units in positions assuming your DPS row, right? This is a DPS row right here, these 4 units. This is a DPS row. We are assuming that your DPS row does not meet their roadblocks. Okay? For starters, alright? We'll go deeper into that later. And assuming you are attacking instead of defending, alright? So you will always get the first hit. Okay? I am going to try and give you the tools and thought process when it comes to choosing which DPS goes first and what position to place them in. Okay? As I said before, if you don't have a roadblock, try and get one or use a pseudo roadblock, alright, based on the previous video, understand what those are. I'm going to use a roadblock, alright, so I'm going to put roadblocks here. As I said just now, if I meet a lot of skip DPS in my tier in arena, Lillian is going to protect that, alright? If they happen to be Foxy or Sigmund, they're going to skip 2 tiles and hit Foxy. So, assuming I meet a lot of skip DPS units on my opponents, right? So, they are going to hit Foxy, right? No matter what. Because DPS row versus DPS row, right? Same row. So Foxy is at the most critical spot. She is most likely going to die. So I want her to hit first. Okay? Now we're going to use units with different tiles. For example, like this. Okay? Assuming it's a DPS row, you want to clear the DPS row as quick as possible. Would this turn order be the most optimal? No, it will not be. Why? Because most players tend to put their supports. If the supports are in their DPS row, right, it happens to be like this. Or something like this. Okay? 2 supports at the end or 2 supports in front. Very rarely you will see 2 supports at the back, okay? On the DPS row. This happens, okay, because that Eden exists, right? And skip units exist. So putting a support there, you actually lose 1 unit instead of 2. Alright, DPS units. Okay, you lose 1 DPS unit instead of 2 if you place them like this. Okay, assuming there are no roadblocks in the lane. So what happens is, if my turn order is like this, Velger is going to hit first, right? So if Velger hit first, she hits the back, right here. So assuming that the back unit dies, right? What goes next? Foxy is going to skip. And when she skips, she's going to skip the front support and hit 1 support. 1 DPS, I mean, on the skip position, right? Or worst come to worst, they leave a gap there, right? So Foxy is going to hit just the support. And that is not efficient. So what you want to do when you want to clear a DPS lane, alright, based on buffs and stuff, right, like this, you want something that clears the lane as quickly as possible, right? And there are exceptions to this rule, but I just want you to know and understand what happens when you do this. Okay, let's not use Eden. Let's use Dwayne. Dwayne is 3 tiles, or use Britain. Okay, so what happens if I do this? Foxy goes first. Foxy skips the front unit here and hits 2 units, right? Just saying, alright? 2 units die. And then next, Britain goes. Britain, since 2 units here on the skip, 2 tiles have died, there is only 1 front unit there to kill. So Britain is going to hit 1 unit. This does not make use of his good range of 3 tiles. Alright, so it's not very effective to place the turn order in this manner. Right? So if I want to clear the lane as quickly as possible, I want to go Britain first. Right? Britain 3 tiles. He has good range. Kill. 1, 2, 3. And then we skip. Kill another 2. And then lastly, Belgium kills the back. Simple. Alright? General idea is something like this. There are exceptions. Alright? If you happen to meet a lot of units that spread out the DPS, or they use a lot of taunts, you want to have a unit that has big coverage like Belgium to go first. Okay, that's an exception. Or there are a lot of back roadblocks that are placed at the back like Lilian here. You don't want to go Belgium first, right? You want to clear as many units as you can, as early as you can, to reduce the amount of damage your team is taking from the opponent, right? Since you are attacking. So the main point of it is you want to kill as much as you can, as quickly as you can. And if you meet a lot of back roadblocks like this, using Belgium first is not a good idea, right? So you want to clear in another way. Likewise, if I meet a lot of roadblocks like this, the front and skip are not effective, so I want to go Belgium first. Right, that's the priority, depending on what kind of formation and teams you fight. What kind of way they place their units, right? You have to check your previous matches. Look at what they do, because you're going to fight them for at least a week. Right, unless they really just fly up the rankings. Okay, not a week, maybe 2 days, 1 day. They're going to be at your tier for 1 day, 2 days, unless they spam swords. Look at what they do, how they place the units, and counter them in the most efficient way possible. Okay? DPS unit positioning, alright? Positioning. I covered it just now. Which unit is at the most risk? Alright, so if I do this again, like just now, these two are at most risk, right? And same thing, if I meet a lot of front Edens, I need to put my supports like this, so they can die after they buff. Right? You have to adapt to how the teams in your tier are putting their formations. Okay, it's gonna be tough, but it's gonna change a lot as well. That's why Arena is fun. Okay? What else? I've covered turn order, I've covered positioning of the DPS. Special DPS units, alright, like Jin and Eren. Eren is not really a DPS, he's a counter unit. These are different because these units can be placed solo without any protection whatsoever. And some of them, most of the time, okay, they don't really need buffs, just good runes. And they can probably exchange with another DPS if they get hit by a DPS, right? There are exceptions as well, alright? There are a lot of exceptions. Like units that have plus defense when they attack, like Levia and Valfern. If they go for Jin, they are not going to die from the counter. But these units can be positioned solo, alright? Like maybe if I do this, I solo Jin right here, alright? And I want him to get a buff as well, so there you go, right? And because maybe I see Jin, he needs crit and crit damage, I use a Naresa. Alright, so I buff these. Right? Or you want to be ideal, like this. Right? So Jin gets the buffs. 1 buff though. He's going to trade, so his positioning can be special. Right? He can be special. Same thing with Eren. Eren can be buffed as well, I believe. I don't really use Eren, but let's see. Yeah, reflect counter. Okay, he can be buffed, so putting him in a position where he can get buffs is also good, but it's not compulsory. You don't have to buff Eren at all, alright? This is not compulsory, but it's just that it depends on what kind of teams you fight. If I'm gonna meet a lot of Belgians and I place my team like this, the Belgian is gonna hit Jin and take Britain with him, alright? And Belgium won't die. So I need to know what kind of units I face often, right? So I can't place it like that. I want to place it like here, right? So he goes like this. At least the support dies and not my damage units, right? What else? I think I'm pretty much done with positioning. Always know which damage unit is at most risk to die, alright? And you want to use these units as early as possible because you know they're gonna die. The probability of them dying first is very high. So you want to place them in a way that you know, okay, I know this, my DPS here is gonna die the earliest. I want to make sure that they attack first, right? Assuming we are attacking, right? Defending is a whole new ball game, guys. If you're meeting a lot of Yun rounds, these two are the most at risk. So what you want to do? You want them to go first, right? Same logic applies to every position in the map, right? This 3x6 map. You have to understand that, okay? When you place your DPS units. And that's how you come up with formations that are actually really good. Okay? So a good formation will have roadblocks, taunts that buff the correct units properly, damage units, alright? And maybe a taunt here and there to taunt away AoE. That makes a good formation, okay? So in this case, I do not have a taunt. But if I want to have a taunt, where would I place the taunt? Somewhere away from the important stuff, right? So I know Levia's range at B4 plus 10 is these 3 squares, right? So if I put Seer here, she's gonna eat the AoE, and probably Ceres is gonna die, right? But if she's a plus 10, these squares are the AoE, right? And Lillian is gonna die. So what do? I have to shift this back. But there is a problem with this. If I meet an Elenia here, Narissa dies, right? A lot of variables depending on what kind of units you meet often. I'm going to repeat this so many times. Depends on what you meet often in Arena. Okay? Understand the placements so you will know how to place your own units to counter what you're facing often. Alright? Analyze your past matches. Alright? Now we're going to talk about good DPS units in the game. Okay? Some are underrated. Some are really popular. Okay? We're only going to talk about mainly for Arena. Mainly for Arena, good DPS, Foxy, Sigmund, Eden, Jin, Gunther, Leto, Yunrang, good tiles, okay? Yunrang is good tiles. Viola is decent for control. Wiggle, really good for Guild War, amazing. You can use him in Arena as well. To clear stuff with Zenith Bait. Alright, so basically you use Zenith as a combo with Wiggle. So Wiggle goes on your second attack. Whatever DPS hits Zenith, they're going to have concentrated fire on them. And Wiggle is going to explode on them. Alright, so that's a nice combo, alright, for Arena. What else? Elenia is really underrated. Her tile is amazing at high plus. Alright, so at plus 3, it's like Velja. Only thing is she hits front. So, and she can proc her own passive, this additional damage. Because if her damage is enough, right? If she has enough damage here, whatever, okay, her base damage is enough to make the unit lesser than 80% HP. This procs, alright? This skill procs. At high skill levels is amazing because it's 80%. So that's a lot of additional damage, 300%. Okay, so she's quite underrated, not used a lot. Really decent. Sigmund, we covered that just now. Foxy is good because she has multi-hit. At high skill levels, plus 10. Attack minus 35%. Why is that good? Because she does 65% attack per hit. Alright, so that times 3 hits. Oh, I need my calculator. 195% per attack she does. Alright, so 195% attack inbuilt into the unit. Alright, there are weaknesses to this, namely Mesochism, but it's also good with dealing other things like Lucius. Alright, Lucius is Death Guard, Foxy clears it. Right, you know it. What else? Eden is not very common. We'll not cover that. Jin hits front, has a ton of damage. He hits like a truck at plus 10. Alright, he hits like a freaking truck. Alright, because of this, super strong, and this, super strong. He hits like a bloody truck at plus 10. Very good, very good. Gunter, amazing range. Every single skill he has, attack, attack, attack. Very strong in damage, alright? Gunter is really good. Leto does amazing damage, alright? He ignores taunts and just one-shot stuff, right? Maybe with one buff, or maybe no buffs, he also one-shot stuff, right? Because of all his skills, right? So look at his skills, very, very strong. He even has a stun, amazing. Counter units. Should we talk about counter units? I guess. So basically counter units in the game, like Zakan and Chocker, they do fixed counters, fixed damage counters, and it's based on their attack, right? So 300%, in the past, my Zakan could get up to 2000 plus attack. And at 300% times 3, right, is about 6000 plus damage that's fixed to whatever that hits them. So they kill stuff, alright? They kill stuff. Do note that Zakan cannot be buffed, alright? You cannot buff Zakan. Chok, on the other hand, he can be buffed, I think. Let me see. Can he be buffed? Yeah, Chocolate can be buffed. Alright, I don't see any exceptions. His attack is very, very high. 4775. And he has a fixed damage counter as well. 40% of his damage. So let's say 9569, right? My current Chocolate. 9569 times 0.4. He does 3800 counter, alright? Without this buff, alright? His attack increases by 5% every turn when battle starts, alright? For 35 turns. So at most, what is this boost? 0.05 times 35. So it's a 175% attack boost, alright? So let's say he doesn't get hit until the 35 turn. Alright, this is imagination. It's not really gonna be practical, but at 35 turns, 9569 times 1.75. He is gonna have 16,745 attack, right? After 35 turns. Okay, then you divide that by 40% to see what kind of fixed damage counter he does. 0.4. He does 6,700 damage to whatever hits him. Okay, this is fixed damage, so it will definitely go through defense. Alright? So bombs are interesting to use. If you want to try them, I won't blame you. I used bombs for 2 months. 2 or 3 months actually, and it got me to like GM1 back then. But we didn't have the new Octos then. So do consider before you actually want to use bombs, alright? And bombs are used with Beliav, right? The support. The Octo support. Because she also creates bombs, right? When the ally she buffs dies, skeletons appear. They are max HP, so and they also counter with the enemy's attack times 100 at low plus, what is it? I don't want to go with the plus 3, right? Plus 3, plus 0 is enemy's attack times 100%. So whatever damage the enemy does on the skeleton, they get hit right back at them with the same amount. That is fixed damage. Okay, at plus 0. Again, I am not encouraging you to get Belial, alright? I gotta be clear with this. I'm just telling you the different kind of combos you can use. Okay? For Arena. This is one of them. Alright? Weaknesses of this is that units like Velja, they have Death Guard when they attack, so they will never die to a bomb. Units like Valfern have Energy Guard, there's a lot of HP to go through, alright, to kill them with a counter is kind of rare, unless maybe there's like 2 skeletons. 2 skeletons will probably kill Valfern, a low plus Valfern most of the time with Assault Runes. What else? Basically, there are a lot of ways to go about choosing units, right? What you want from your team. And I have to admit, using bombs is fun. It's fun to watch your enemy, their DPS just die, and when they touch your bombs, it's fun, right? Okay, I'm not encouraging you to do it, right? I am not encouraging you to do it. Okay, there are many other ways to play the game. You can go with a mage strat with Valfern. You count on him to deal the massive AoE. You just have to keep him alive. There's another strat. You can sacrifice Jin to trade with opponent DPS units. You can use Themis. Buff on your beefy units that are really tanky. With agility buff, heals, and they have reflect counter. It's all pretty good, man. Themis is a very defensive support. It's also a strat. There are many ways to do your formation. And I'm going off topic. I'm so sorry, guys. Really bad. What am I doing? Must be late. I think I'm going to stop the video right here. Unless... Oh yeah, I need to cover good supports. Good supports. Belial, Venaka, Veronia, Warrior, Cerez. Naressa is decent but no immunity buff. Arenas has a shield, a barrier, and removes stat weakening, so okay, decent. Xiongwu is also good for beginners. Removes attack interference, boosts stuff, really good stuff. Check out their skills, right? I don't want to go over that because my video is super long already. I'm really sorry, guys. My video is really long, and that's entirely my fault. Helena is very interesting because her range gets amazing at +9. She gets Charm Bestowal onto her allies, which means that whatever hit those that she buffs, they are going to get charmed and they're going to smash themselves if they're not immune, or if they have no means to remove the attack interference on them. Amazing. Okay. She is pretty good. I would rank her maybe top 5 supports, 5-star supports in the game right now because of this. Alright. It's really good. And if you ever happen to hit an Ars mode in Arena, you'll know how annoying Charm is, right? Charm counter, super annoying. Other spots, Sabrina, agility buff is great. Best is 4, world boss, right? Everybody knows that. Mary, super offensive buffer. Okay, watch the support video. Actually, I already did a support video. Why am I going through this again? Okay, we're gonna skip the supports. I'm just running out. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. Vignette is really good for Novice Arena because she stuns. She has good range, like Sigmund and Foxy. Really good. Rai for Novice Arena, very painful, right? Because of this, very painful. Novice Arena, Britain is also really good. Has control with freeze. Gets good buffs from his skills to his attack, right? And he has a counter. Stats weakening counter, really good too. Britain is nice. What else? Elk, not really for damage. Alright. I'm gonna talk about stuff that can one-shot stuff. So Viola wouldn't be in that. Yunrang can one-shot stuff with enough buffs. And then with a nice tile from the back. 2 tiles. What else can one-shot stuff? Like I said, Dwayne and Christina, they all can one-shot stuff with enough buffs. Same with Rogan. Elijah. Yeah, mostly these units, alright guys? Victor has enough damage to one-shot things at +10. But the problem is he kills himself, so I wouldn't really rate him that highly. Okay, he is very strong attack-wise. It's just that he kills himself, and I don't like that in a unit, alright? That's up to you. Leave that to your own judgment, guys. I'm on Victor. Okay. Ventana, Taunt Killer, definitely really good. Dalvi, fixed damage, front. Good to deal with Lillian in the front. And that's probably about it, guys. Okay, I'm gonna end the video now. I'm sorry I went off track. I know I went off track. It's about 5 AM right now. My mind isn't working that well. Okay. I mean, I even told you guys I wasn't gonna cover off meta units, and look what I did. You know, guys, if you enjoy the guides I do, I'm sorry that sometimes they're confusing because I really don't plan the some parts of the video, right? I plan the opening and stuff, but when I get going, I lose track. You know, guys, if the guide has helped you, let me know with a thumbs up and sub to the channel. Comment in the comments if you think this video sucks or if it's really good. I'll try and reply all questions as well. I normally do reply all questions in the comments. Alright guys, this will be the end of this video. Take care. Ciao.